Hello, everybody.
How's it going?
Going well. Thanks for the last minute invite to this.
Woohoo! Well, I'm glad you're on the HOPA board. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Better late than never, right?
You even made it onto my slide.
Did I?
Well, not this
Oh,
one,
okay. I was
but
looking at the
there's
pictures. I was like, oh man.
yeah, you're like, where am I in the sea of faces? No, there's a slide with the HOPA board on it. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Is-
Um, how are things going?
It's going pretty well. I'm learning my way through this internship project. I don't know if I've explained it to you, but it's through the Center for Entrepreneurship. So I'm out there trying to map the Nashville startup ecosystem, and I just keep going down these rabbit holes and finding out there's more to it, and there's more there's more going on than I thought. So it's getting intense.
Craig,
So what are, oh,
cool.
go ahead.
I was
Kat,
just
what were you gonna say?
I was just saying that sounds so cool.
Thanks. Yeah, it's fun. Like I said, I wasn't sure what I was totally getting into, but so far so good. I'm having fun.
Yeah, I bet that's really interesting. I bet you're meeting a lot of people.
Yeah, and if only virtually, but I'll take it. I'll admit I spent yesterday morning like walking around downtown to like the Chamber of Commerce and Launch Tennessee and all these places, thinking they'd at least have someone in the office, and that wasn't the case. It was mostly locked doors and unanswered phones.
Yeah, I know. It's just, yeah, it's still a little bit, touch and go as far as what's open and who's back in the office and who's not. And my husband works in Williamson County, and it seems like that area is really kind of is more, you see more offices filled up and everything down there than you do
Okay.
in Davidson. So,
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah.
Catherine, it's good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Thank you for joining. And Brian, thank you for joining.
The only thing on my calendar all week, so I'm thrilled to be here.
That is great. That is great. All right. We can go ahead and get started. We are recording this, so for some people that had conflicts, we can send it out. We'll post it on the Career Space 2022. So hopefully you all are getting in the habit of going there and seeing some of our announcements from the team. And for the second years that are on this call, we did some of these calls when you were an incoming student, but essentially the Career Management Center is doing kind of a series of calls over the next several weeks to introduce different career paths and also, some of the resources available on Career Space. So yes, and Catherine, you're good kind of looking at the chat while I go through some of these slides.
I'll be on it.
Great, great. Okay, so let me get started here. So on the call today is obviously me. I'm Sandy Kinnett. I am a Senior Associate Director in the Career Management Center at Owen. And one of the areas that I work with as a career coach are students that are interested in the HOP career path, which is such a wonderful group of students to work with. So students that want to pursue corporate HR roles and human capital consulting roles and anything that involves kind of the solving of business problems through that human capital lens. So I work with the students that want to get involved in recruiting and recruit for those types of internships and full-time roles. I have been a member of the Career Management Center for 15 years, which is really hard for me to believe. My husband and I moved here when he decided to go to Owen for business school. We are both originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and we moved here in 2005. And I was still looking for a job. He had started classes and he said, I think there's an opening in the Career Management Center. And I think that you would really enjoy the people that work on the team. And now 15 years later, I'm still here. So it's definitely been a very fulfilling and wonderful role for me. So I'm excited to work with those of you that ultimately end up deciding to pursue HR as a career path. Also on the call today, and what we are going to try and do in all of these calls is bring in the expertise and insights of some of our current students. So I have 3 current students that are rising second years that are on the call. They're all on the HOP club, the HOPA club, the HOP Association on their board, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about their background. And really our objective of this call today is to tell you a little bit about what HR can look like when you're getting an MBA and what some of those roles may be. And how that works, what internship recruiting looks like in HOP, because it is early, and then also how we support you in that. So just kind of 3 basic objectives, and would love to have interaction and questions in the chat. So I'm going to let Brian Dabbs start introducing himself, and then we'll go Brian, Catherine, Craig.
Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to see the turnout on our call today. As Sandy said, my name is Brian. I'm the president of the HOP Association, which really was such a big draw for me to choose Owen for business school. Just a little bit about what kind of brought me here. Most of my professional background had been in the nonprofit world, in the political world, all sort of in kind of operations. And after a number of years, I really enjoyed seeing how organizations function, how people sort of support the kind of operations of how businesses work. And so what's really kind of thrilled me about the HOP curriculum is not only learning what people more traditionally think of in sort of the HR people-focused aspects of organizations, but also really sort of the strategic business foundations to be able to be a really strategic partner in the HR world. And I'm excited to continue into second year and experience more and hopefully have the chance to work with all of you. Catherine?
Thanks, Brian. Hi, guys. I'm Catherine. Like Sandy said, I'm a rising second year. I'm from Chicago originally. Went to Michigan for undergrad, studied sociology and art history, which gave me nothing in terms of a business background. Went to go work for a retail startup in Chicago. So again, like not a lot in the business background. Started in sales there, then moved to training and development, which is really where I got my first taste of working on the people side of business. I was totally fascinated by that kind of intersection of people strategy and business strategy. So knew that I wanted to focus on HR, came to Owen to do my MBA to build those business skills, but also to build out some HR skills as well. Like Brian said, the HOPA group and just the support and curriculum around HR and HOP was a huge draw for me. I couldn't find it at a lot of other business schools. I knew it was really strong here. So just a lot of leading indicators too in terms of how strong I felt that the HOP community was here. For example, that we host the Human Capital Case Competition and have for the past several years. Our recruiting numbers are really strong in terms of corporate HR and human capital consulting. So thought that Owen would be a great place to build out those skills and have been very impressed by all of those things, by the community, the curriculum, faculty and staff support. So excited to get to meet all of you and hopefully share some tidbits that will help you along the way.
Great. Craig?
Hey everyone, yeah, Craig here. It's great to see you all virtually and excited and congratulations. Looking forward to meeting everyone. I was, prior to this, an Army officer and helicopter pilot for 12 years actually on active duty before switching to the reserves last summer. My career interests since then have been really all over the map, between real estate and operations and even finance a little bit. So I kind of dabbled in it all as far as interests go the first year. But for me, it always kept coming back to the people. And I didn't realize how much leadership and human resources kind of focus was part of my life in the Army as an officer. And then I really enjoyed the classes I took first year that were HOP related. And so it kind of reaffirmed what I always had in my mind as an interest, but just kind of confirmed that this is kind of where I want to focus on in the business world. So I kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything, but I think HOP is kind of the wave of the future as well. When you consider all the jobs that automation is taking away, HOP can help manage that transition. But at the end of the day, humans won't be removed from the equation at any point. So that's kind of my story. Again, really looking forward to helping in any way I can as this discussion goes on today. Thanks.
Thanks, Craig. Okay, so now we'll kind of get into what I'm trying to get back to my screen share. There we go. Okay, so I thought it would be fun because, I mean, as Catherine mentioned, and similar to what Brian and Craig have said, I mean, it's really awesome, even if you don't decide to do HR as a career path, or if you do, to have this curriculum and ability to take classes in an MBA setting about people, because so many of these problems companies are trying to solve, so many initiatives that they are trying to move forward to enhance their business delivery requires getting people on board. So just to kind of get your mind in the HOP mindset, I thought that these two questions would be interesting to think about to start off in the chat. And so how do you see, or what would you think would be ways the HR function could drive value within a business or organization? Maybe from your own experience, times that you have felt like, if we could just mobilize or kind of move our people differently, or tap into people's strengths more, how could we drive business forward? And then what do you think why do you think you might be interested in a corporate HR HOP career path? So go ahead and put some of your thoughts in the chat so that we can talk about that kind of as we move throughout the call. So one of the questions that I get working with students as they come into the business school program, they are asking, well, what does HOP look like in a job? And how does that kind of work? And how is the HR function organized? And so this is a very simple way of thinking about it. So HOP within a company, you can kind of think from a corporate HR perspective. You have kind of two areas. You have an HR business partner, and then you have specialist areas within HR. So an HR business partner is going to serve a group within the organization and touch on all of the HR components for that particular client group. So you're essentially an HR consultant for an internal client group. Maybe it's a finance division or engineering or tech, marketing, but you're basically the go-to person for any HR related matter that comes from that part of the organization. So you're doing anything from comp and ben to, which is compensation and benefits, to, performance management, to talent acquisition. So you're kind of the go-to for them for all of those HR pieces. And then you have HR specialists, which are individuals in HR that have a deeper knowledge of a particular HR component. So that could be the compensation and benefits, but or the talent acquisition or the performance management, but you are a specialist in that particular knowledge area within HR. And so people would come to you from all areas of the organization to tap into that specialty that you have within HR. So that's kind of a very simplistic view of how I would break it down. And Catherine, Brian, or Craig, I don't know if you have anything to kind of add to that, or any thoughts on how you organize what HOP could look like within a corporate HR function.
The one addition I would make is, depending on the size of the organization, this can also look a little different, which I'm sure is common across a lot of functions. I know in smaller organizations that I've worked in, HR falls under operations and organization administrative, so it can sometimes be a catch-all, which is why, again, I always come back to, I like that our curriculum has a lot of people-focused things and a lot of business strategy-focused things, so that if you do happen to become a catch-all, you're really prepared to kind of deal with anything an organization might face.
Great.
Yeah, I'll add that although I don't have any experience whatsoever in the real business world coming from the Army, I noticed that as I moved up through the ranks in the Army, at each level, you got more and more focus on the people side of the organization, and that became really, really critical. And ideally, coming out of an MBA program like this will be in the mid to upper management levels, and so having that skill set and kind of that formal education and background to help manage the people is super critical.
That's great. Yeah, I feel like when alumni come back, even if they aren't necessarily in an HR role, they always say, I wish I had taken more HOP classes, because it's certainly, as Craig mentioned, you know, as you're in these management level roles, it's so important being able to understand kind of the people equation of some of the business problems. So this is another kind of, you know, another way of looking at what MBA career paths could look like in HR. And so, you know, as it was on the previous slide, there is the HR business partner. That's a common job title that we see students interested in. Again, you're doing HR work for a particular business or client group within an organization. And then an HR specialist includes those areas that I mentioned that are kind of more specific, like the drill down of HR. You're oftentimes working with HR business partners to execute the different specialty areas. So some of the specialty groups that you'll start to see as you look at internship descriptions in HR are listed here. But, you know, one thing to note is that a lot of companies call these things very different things. And so, you know, this is by no means a finite list. So that's just something to keep in mind too. A lot of our students that come into Owen are looking for HR leadership development programs. So oftentimes in those types of programs, you have an opportunity to do projects in an HR business partner capacity or in an HR specialty capacity. And they really are trying to use these programs to develop you in all of those types of areas, so that when you finish the leadership development program, you're going into a role within the organization where you have a little bit of experience and perspective coming from both the business partner side as well as the specialty side. Catherine, I know that you're doing a leadership development program internship with American Express. Do you want to talk a little bit about kind of the difference between those types of projects?
Sure. So the internship with American Express is project-based. So actually I got my project last week. I'm going to be working on the total rewards and well-being team, working with the individual who's running Healthy Minds, which is a mental health employee support initiative at American Express, helping the manager on that team analyze the impact of Healthy Minds on their customer care team's productivity and effectiveness. So that'll be my project for the summer. The full-time offer with American Express, should hopefully everything go well this summer, is a 2-year rotational program. So it's 3 8-month rotations. The first rotation is within kind of one of your traditional HR verticals, so kind of a specialist role, as Sandy was saying. So that could be on their talent management group. It could be in their organizational effectiveness group. It could be their learning and development group. So one of those kind of traditional HR verticals. So that's the first rotation, or one of them. The next one is a rotation within the business. So you're not in an HR role, you're in the business, which is again why I think an MBA is so important with an HR focus. So you start to understand, how does the company make money? What's important to this part of the business? So you start to have a better understanding of how the business functions. And then the third rotation is an international rotation where you are essentially an HR business partner for one of their global offices. So for example, I was chatting with Caitlin Parker, who's an Owen alum who's there, and she was getting ready when I was talking to her last fall to go to London in January of this year to do her 8-month rotation in London as an HR business partner there. So that's a little bit about what that program looks like. Citi, for example, does a 2-year rotational program, 2 1-year rotations. So it looks a little different by company, but typically the goal of that rotational program is to get you experience in different parts of HR and different parts of the business.
Great, thank you so much. So the human capital consulting, those are other roles that students come in. Those can be common MBA career paths for students at Owen that are interested in doing this type of work, but doing it more in a consulting capacity. So working for a consulting firm, going to client sites, solving a piece of an HR people problem for a large client. And again, some of the work is very similar, but obviously you're going to have the difference between doing it internally for a company that you work for versus doing it for client to client based and more project based. And so the good news is there's a lot of programming coming, and when you get to Owen, you'll have the opportunity to learn more about what these different career paths can look like. And there's a lot of in between too. So this is just kind of a sampling of what some of the career paths are that you'll see in HR and human capital consulting at Owen. So some of the key skills that, we talk about with students that are interested in going into HOP, obviously like business acumen. These recruiting companies are coming to recruit HOP for their MBA skill set as well. So you do have to have a passion for people and understanding how to really engage your employees of an organization and really maximizing the talent of your employees of an organization. But you, as Catherine said, really have to understand the business side of things. And so they are coming to recruit at Owen, and you're really adding a lot of value through that business acumen that you're getting with an MBA. Strategic thinking, I won't go into all of these in great detail, and we'll certainly share the slides after this. Collaborative, process-oriented, being able to lead, demonstrated leadership in your previous experience, being able to lead people for a particular strategy, being able to engage people, get people on board and influence is really important. And change management skills. So anytime a company is going through any type of change, it's going to impact the people that work at that company, work on that team. And so really being thoughtful and understanding that that matters to people, how they're doing work, and that any kind of change in an organization is going to have an impact, positive, negative, anything in between. So really being able to have that toughness and courage to lead those changes and respond accordingly. So these are just some of the key skills that companies coming to recruit HOP talent look for. So moving on, hopefully that gave you some sense of what career paths can look like and internships can look like. And one of the things to think about if you are considering this career path is that it is somewhat of an accelerated timeline. So a lot of companies that recruit for HOP ON candidates are coming at the same time other companies are coming, but they're going to be interviewing for internships in Mod 2. So we kind of back up the programming to get you ready for the accelerated timeline because you will be interviewing in Mod 2 versus a lot of your classmates won't be interviewing for other functions until Mod 3 or Mod 4. So this is just kind of a quick snapshot. Catherine, Brian, or Craig, do you all have any memories of the accelerated timeline and how quickly things can happen once you start school?
It is a whirlwind, but it's so much fun. You make awesome friends along the way. I think what's so great is even though it's fast, there's so much support. So if you are someone like myself who knows you want to go into HR, you're very confident HOP is the path for you, there are, a million things you can do to get yourself totally prepared. If you're not sure if HOP is right for you, there are also ways to figure that out, even though it's still an accelerated timeline. So we have the HOP Symposium, which we'll have likely in August. The HOPA group put on last year Friday workshops where we would go sit in a classroom Fridays at 11 a.m. They were pretty informal, but it was a way for us first years to ask the second years about their experience. We practiced our pitches together. So those sessions also gave some of our peers opportunities to see if HOP was right for them or not. So even though it is accelerated, don't be scared if you're not confident this is for you. You can figure it out during that time too and still be prepared. I would say even though it goes quickly, it's you can certainly manage it. We all did. I think what you can do now to help, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit later, is just to start thinking about what you enjoy, what you like. Start to think about times that you've dealt with ambiguity, times that you had to deal with teams and collaboration. Start to think about some of those stories. So when you hit the ground running in August, you'll already be a little prepared.
Okay, can you all, are the slides updated? What do you all see?
I think we're still seeing the different career paths in HR,
okay.
The generalist, specialist.
I'm sorry. Okay, stop share. Let me see if this will work. If I do it again.
Perhaps while we're working through
Catherine.
PowerPoint, we have a question from Joe. For someone in the military who won't be going through the recruitment process, what do opportunities for HOP graduates look like for those entering the job market, after graduation at that point? So Craig, maybe you can take that. You're the resident expert on that one here.
Yeah, I can certainly give it a shot. Joe, I'm reading your question now. So I assume you're on a grad so program or going back to active duty, and then will presumably retire. Got it. Okay, and then look to join a HR job after that. So I've got a couple peers of mine. Well, they were former bosses of mine that have retired after a 20-year career and gone into an HR position at a large corporation. At that point, you'll have, I'm sure on your resume, you'll have led large organizations in the hundreds or more. And that's something that the corporate world seems to really respect, if only from the people that I've seen go straight into that. So specific opportunities I can't really speak to, but I know that they're out there and they certainly exist.
All right, thank you. Okay, is everyone seeing my slides now? And if not, I apologize.
Yeah, we're on the timeline slide.
Oh, good. Okay. Phew. These Zoom screen shares. Okay, great. All right, so let's see. Let's move to the next slide. But basically, the takeaway of this and what I tell students is, although it's very accelerated, it's very fast, the HOPA community, the second year students, the HOPA club, they do such a wonderful job just kind of getting you prepared. And then there is layered on top of that, you know, a lot of support from the Career Management Center, a lot of support from the HOP faculty, and just you have a lot of resources, you have a lot of connectivity. And so you're never really missing anything because you're always in touch with people and you're getting a lot of communication and transparency around what you need to be doing when, so that you're not missing any applications, internship applications that you would be interested in pursuing. Okay, so do you all see the slide about just some of the internship recruiting continued? If so, give me thumbs up. Sweet. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the main difference with the accelerated recruiting is that the interviews start in Mod 2 versus Mod 3. Some students that go through on-campus recruiting get offers by the end of the year, but HR recruiting can continue throughout the spring through Mod 3 and Mod 4 as companies kind of continue to look for ON HOP students. There's a lot of infrastructure and support. I did want to put in here the internship salary data because that's sometimes an interesting question is, do HOP students tend to have same compensation levels as other areas? And so this is just a snapshot from the 2019 employment report, which you can find on our website, and it has a lot more information than this, but it basically, you know, looks at all of the offers that are reported by our students, and we report this out as an industry. So all of the business schools have this report, but I think it's just interesting to note that you'll see, you know, HR is right in the mix with other functional areas. The internship salary data is reported on a monthly basis. And then lastly on this slide, I just wanted to mention some of our recruiting partners that recruit for HR. It's certainly not a complete list. Sometimes it varies from year to year. These companies really invest a lot in their HR function, and they're looking for ON HOP students to really come and add value and add their best practices and their MBA skill set to their companies. So these are all very much strategic HR internship opportunities and full-time roles. Okay, so just as a reminder, this is the CMC team. So as you start working with the CMC, as I mentioned, I work with students that want to go into HOP roles, but you may be wanting to pursue other areas. You've got the MBA coaching team, you have the employer development team. So Courtney and Heather, you'll get to know them very well. They're working with all of the companies that come to ON to look at ON MBA talent, and they know everything from when the application deadlines are to when companies are doing coffee chats or other informal information sessions. And so they put everything into a system that's easy to use, and they do training and everything on that. We also have alumni career management, but that is in the distant future for you all, but something that I like to mention because they are part of our team, Lacey and Sylvia, and so we all work really closely together to try and deliver all of the tools and resources that you all need to be successful in the recruiting process. I am going to turn it over to Brian. Are you seeing the HOP club support, Brian?
I'm not. It might be my Wi-Fi is not accepting your screen share, but I do have it from what we've worked on previously.
Great. So Brian, as he mentioned before, is the president of HOPA.
Yes, HOPA is the professional student club for the HOP concentration. Each of the concentrations, for the most part, have kind of their own professional organization associated with it. And our mission really is to support all of the HOP students in the HOP concentration through academics, recruiting, internship, networking, alumni, academic programming, to learn with faculty, sort of all of the extracurricular things associated with the HOP concentration in particular. One goal that we have this year, as you all are learning about the different concentrations, and maybe you decide HOP is not the right full fit for you, we're really excited to find opportunities to engage with folks who are not HOP concentrators, to find ways to add value, to show the role that HR can play, show how they can be partners with HR leadership once they're in roles, to try to engage with the broader Owen community in a different way than we have in the past. So whether you want to concentrate on HOP or not, I definitely encourage you all to attend our symposium as we're planning that programming, and just keep an eye out for the programming that we'll put together, and hopefully you'll find some value in it.
Great, thank you so much. Brian, I have the slide up of the HOPA board, and can you all see that? Thumbs up? Okay, cool. So this is the board for HOPA, and we have the three on the left that are here with us today. But yes, basically the programming is great. All of the functional clubs do so much programming to help prepare you for the recruiting process. But I will say HOPA is pretty awesome. As Catherine mentioned, there were Friday sessions last year, really to kind of make sure that you felt like you had an opportunity to engage and ask questions about the recruiting process. So,
If I could add one thing, Sandy,
yes,
I think
please.
An important note you may have already learned as you've got to know current students or even spoken with alumni already, Owen has a phenomenal alumni network. I have had only great interactions with all the alumni I've reached out to. Some of them, are very quick to respond and love any chance they have to interact. Others, in the normal course of their business, take a little bit longer to get a hold of. But anytime I've had a conversation, they've all been really tremendous help to kind of navigate the HR recruiting space. I speak, specifically of the HOP alum, but I know that applies really broadly to the entire Owen alumni community. So definitely, keep those folks in mind. If you ever see names or have thoughts of companies you might be interested in, this is kind of how the networking will start to work now, that you have access to this alumni network, and it can really make the difference. So I would just add that.
That's great. Yes, they play such a great role in that they are willing to hop on the phone, and I think that so many of our alumni wear their Owen hat over their recruiting hat. And so, being able to have those conversations with individuals that have been through the HOP program, have been through the Owen curriculum, and are working in a particular area that you're interested in, it's certainly such a great opportunity to be able to learn from them and access them. So Also, another area of support that you'll be hearing more and more about as the summer goes on is the peer coach team. And so there are individuals that apply for this role in the spring, and we interview and hire about 25 second-year students that serve as a CMC peer coach. And so in addition to the CMC and HOPA and your faculty, you also have a second year that will be working with you. They typically have a group of between 6 to 8 students, but working with you on everything from, you know, what classes to take to resume review, mock interview prep, and connecting you with other second year students. So that's something that we'll be signing towards the end of the summer, and you can start working with your peer coach then. So that's really all of the slides that I had, and I wanted to leave an opportunity to hear any questions. We've got the 3 second years on the call, give you all an opportunity to ask them about recruiting for HR roles and anything about ON. So
yeah, and Sandy, we have 2 questions in the chat already, and for everybody else, feel free to just drop your questions in there and I'll share them out. So the first one's from Jacob. For the rising second years, what drew you to corporate HR roles versus human capital consulting? So I'll give this one a stab. For me, a lot of it was lifestyle. I want to get a dog. I love going to workout studios in the morning, like in the city where I live with a friend. So for me, I knew that was a really important piece of my personal life, but also how I show up professionally. I'm a better person when I get to work. I mean, comforts of home. So it was really about lifestyle. And also part of the reason I want to go into HR is because I believe we can all do a better job of kind of managing our personal lives and our professional lives. And the consulting lifestyle just didn't really align with kind of my passion there. So for me, that's what drew me to corporate HR versus human capital consulting.
Great, thank you. Brian and Craig, did you all consider consulting versus the roles that you're in now?
I did briefly, yeah. And in addition to what Catherine already said, which I think is spot on in regards to the lifestyle, another thing that I noticed was a difference was with corporate HR, you'll develop a plan and you'll follow through all the way with the execution of that plan, which depending on your personality can be a great thing, but a lot of times that's the really hard work that can be really challenging. Vice human capital consulting, where you do a lot of hard work, pitch the plan, you get the organization to buy in, but then you kind of walk away. That's not true in every scenario at all places, but that's kind of the caricature of consulting. And so just knowing yourself, what do you like to do as far as seeing the project all the way through execution might be a determining factor on which one of those you prefer.
I'd agree with all of that. And just one more note, I would say for me, an important thing was wanting to develop a long-term relationship with the company I'm working at, which when you're a consultant, you can do that with the consulting company you're employed by versus the project company you're working for that you'll transition out of after 6, 8, 9 months. And so I know for me and how I like to work in my personality, I'm much more drawn to sort of a longer term engagement with a kind of single company, learning, the intricacies and the internal in order to kind of continue being a better consultant or internal leader for them.
Yeah, and I would say one quick plug there. If you're trying to determine which path is right for you, I highly recommend reaching out to Owen alum, and specifically those who just graduated, because for our class, most of our peers who had consulting internships this summer, most of them were cut to like a 1 or 2 week kind of learning session. So they're not going to have quite the same experience this summer that many of our recently graduated peers do. So highly recommend reaching out to them for kind of a better insight into what it looks like, what their day-to-day was in their internship and what they're expecting full-time. So use those second years and recently graduated students for sure. The next question, I think, Sandy, you'll be able to answer best, is from Catherine Gate. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. From what I understand, there are specific industries that recruit for the fall HOP internships. If we're looking to focus in HOP, but want to focus more on an industry as well, like healthcare, for example, kind of how do you thread that needle? Do you go for HOP internship or do you go for healthcare? And how does that align in terms of timing?
Great. And that question was from Catherine. Okay. Hi, Catherine. So I think that the companies that come on campus, you are going to see a variety of industries. So you'll see some financial services, you'll see some CPG, some tech, e-commerce, different kind of touch points across a lot of industries. If there is a particular industry that is, you know, you're very passionate about, you want to go into a healthcare organization, you know, that would be something that we would sit down and kind of look at who are the on-campus recruiting partners that maybe check that box for you. And then who are the employers that you should be considering that either have more of a less formal relationship with Owen or recruit MBAs, but they don't come to Owen. And so looking at the entire set of employers that really align best with the function and the industry. And kind of as you start to do that, you know, there are different ways that we support you. So the on-campus companies are obviously going to have a much easier kind of way to get into their pipeline and into their recruiting process than a company that we don't necessarily have a relationship with. And so our objective is to kind of help you think of ideas to connect with people at that company or at those types of companies so that you're able to get into the recruiting process for them. I think part of your question was maybe around how do you balance industry over function? And so if you know, kind of look at it as, do I, you know, ignore industry and just pursue an HR internship, or does working in healthcare mean more to me than an HR internship? And I really think that that's kind of an individual decision that you make at that time and as you're having these interactions and going through the process with companies. I don't know if any of the second years have anything to kind of add to that.
The one thing I'm thinking on that is and maybe Sandy, this may not be the best advice, but I suppose the worst thing you can always do is ultimately decide to turn down an offer. If you start at the beginning of the year thinking one thing, you have an interest, and you ultimately get to the end and decide, I think I'd rather pursue this other interest that's a little bit bigger of a priority. Like, the worst thing you do is you get an offer and decide it's not the right fit and you want to refocus your efforts. But relatedly, and this isn't a scare, but it's also just to kind of keep in mind how the flow of recruiting goes. You know, the academic year is finite, so there is an ebb and a flow, and there is a time where, you know, folks start getting their things together for the summer. I'll speak from personal experience. I didn't have my internship until May, but you know, it obviously worked out. So that's, you know, obviously just another trade-off there on the timing.
Thanks, very helpful. Great. Yeah, I mean, so much of the internship recruiting process is, yes, these companies are coming to, or anybody that you interact with, they're evaluating you, right? They're trying to figure out if you're going to be able to add value to their organization, if you're a good fit, but you also are evaluating if they're a good fit for you. And so it's a lot of, you learn a lot. I mean, it feels very kind of unknown and foreign right now, but once you start to really get plugged in and you're talking to a lot of the second year students about what their internship recruiting experience was like, and you're seeing these companies, you really kind of start to feel a little bit more like, okay, some of this resonates with me and some of this doesn't. And it kind of helps move you further down that that process of learning.
I also just want to emphasize one thing Sandy just said, that things might sound very vague or like amorphous right now. And I was thinking back a year ago, feeling exactly the same way, even after this kind of introduction. There may not be a lot of clarity until August, September rolls around and you really kind of get to the thick of it. So don't worry on wrapping your head around all of it today. You'll certainly, through all of our programming and all the resources and support, be well prepared to tackle all that you need.
Brian, that was a great segue as we're kind of wrapping up in the final 10 minutes. So one of the things that I wanted to ask each of the second years is, thinking back to a year ago, what would be some advice or just some thoughts around kind of this anticipation of starting at business school and kind of what to expect? I'd love to hear you all share that.
Yeah, I'll go. Specifically for me, as I mentioned, I was fresh off like a 12-year career in the Army, so I was looking forward to taking a break, and that break didn't show up in Mod 1 like I was hoping it would. It was kind of intense, and then layer on recruiting on top of that, and an accelerated timeline for HOP. Keep in mind, all of this was information I knew. People were telling me this, but it didn't really stop the reality that life is busy, and it can kind of feel like there's a lot of pressure being applied to go to all the recruiting events and decide which company you're going to work for the rest of your life, et cetera. And that's just not the case. Remind yourself, in a few months when you're kind of feeling it, that you can take a break. And if you're on the fence with HOP, like I was, amongst many other career interests, feel free to reach out to me, because I kind of felt a little bit on an island every once in a while amongst peers who at least seemed like they had it all figured out, and I certainly didn't. And so I kind of struggle with that a little bit. So I want to offer that up to you guys. If anyone's on the fence for any reason about career aspirations or just the pressure of Mod 1 and recruiting, let me know.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Craig said. You guys are all in Slack now. Feel free to reach out. I'll go ahead and just speak for all of us really whenever. We'll be pretty responsive. But I think thinking back to, where I was a year ago starting, again, the farthest I got in terms of business education was econ at Michigan, which was massive. So I really had no idea what I was doing. I knew it was going to be a struggle, but be ready for people to help you, which I was hoping for, but it was a really pleasant surprise when I would, ask people for help, and folks would willingly, take a break out of their day to help me with finance or accounting or whatever it might have been. So that was a really pleasant surprise. The other thing I'll say is your time is extremely valuable, and it's okay to say no to things that aren't genuine to you and your interests. For example, in terms of recruiting, I knew I wanted to be on the East Coast or the Midwest. Amazon, Microsoft, really attractive companies. I didn't even go to the info sessions because I knew I didn't want to be on the West Coast. And it can be really hard to say no to some of those flashy events and, those info sessions at really attractive companies. But it's important to stay true to what you want to do, what brings you joy, and what you think is truthfully what you want your career to be in. So your time is super valuable. It can be really easy to say yes to everything, but I encourage you to say no to the things that you're really going to say no to, right? And you can spend your time preparing for an interview upcoming, or spend that time reaching out to a person at a company you're really interested in instead. So there can be a lot of really awesome things, but it's important to think about what you really want to do and what you're going to do to get yourself there.
So beyond just echoing what Craig and Catherine have both said, and also to just say, we only get to do this once. So, take your time valuable, be really deliberate and intentional. I think one thing I wish someone had said to me on the front end, and kind of reminded me thinking back to college, is like, Mod 1 looks a little bit different from Mod 2, which will look a little bit different from Mod 3, from Mod 4, and then even I'm anticipating into year 2 that things change and evolve really quickly, academically, socially, professionally, and that's all okay. It's all natural. Everyone is still fine. I think for me that was, I guess not that it was unexpected, but it was a lot of different adjustments, mod after mod. But ultimately it was all good things. You know, by Mod 3, feeling really settled in. For me, you know, that was where, you know, developing, you know, social group, getting in a good rhythm with classes, things for me started to really chug along. And then of course we had to go home for Mod 4, so that wasn't so exciting. But yeah, just kind of keep in mind, like Craig said, Mod 1 will be crazy intense. And then Mod 2 is going to look a little different, and then Mod 3 is going to look a little different. So it's an evolving experience, and cherish every moment because it doesn't come again a second time.
Great, thank you so much. Catherine, are there any other questions, or does anybody have any other questions? If you want to type them into the chat, but I just want to thank Catherine and Brian and Craig so much for joining us. They're all very busy doing their internships. I want to thank you all for joining as well, because I know many of you are still working and managing a lot of different priorities, and we are so excited that you're going to be part of the Owen community, and we welcome you. Please feel free to reach out to me, reach out to anybody on the CMC team, any of the second years on this call, Catherine, Craig, and Brian. And we are just happy to help in any way that we can. The slides will be posted after this call, and we look forward to working with all of you. So thanks.
Excited to see everyone.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Thanks, guys.